Hello, my name is Varun Kashyap and my intended major is marketing.
Professor Kurt Schmitz and anyone else watching this Excel video. Today we're going to be demonstrating how to create a pivot table in Excel. First, we find ourselves in the video data worksheet, which can be found in the CIS folder. And in that worksheet, we're in the sales data tab, which is from the Start Here data menu. Now from here, you'll find a nice big data table, which goes all the way down to row 8000. But we're not using row 8000 right now, so scroll down to column S, and we can start our first task. First, we're going to create a header for column S, which we'll call gross margin. So type that in, gross underscore margin, making sure there's no spelling issues. Once you've typed it out correctly, go one down, and we can think of a formula to fill in the gross margin for this data table. And we can calculate the gross margin by doing unit price minus unit cost, all divided by unit price again. So to type that out, we can do equals, open parentheses, P2 minus Q2, all divided by P2 again. Click enter and we should get 0.49. Now to copy this, what you can do is find the black cross, drag it down, and it'll fill in the formula. But that'll take a long time to go all the way down to row 8000. So instead what we can do is once again click on the top and then select and do Command C to copy the formula. Then click on the first open spot and drag all the way down to the bottom of the data table, making sure not to click anywhere else. Then we're going to shift and click at the bottom of the row we're working on and do Command V. And what you'll see is that fills in the formula for all of the missing data entries. Now that we have our filled in gross margins column, we can create a pivot table. So click anywhere on the data table and then go over to the insert menu and select pivot table. Now, these default dialog box should have the perfect options for you, so all you have to click is OK. And you find a new sheet, and this should be called Sheet 2 for you, but it's called Sheet 5 for me because I've done a little bit of practicing. And you should find a nice pivot table and a pivot table fields dialog box. This is exactly what we want, so it works out perfect. And now we can fill in the column, rows, and values menus. What we want in the column should be sales channel, and then we can find ship date and drag that over to rows. Once we do that, we'll see that it separates it to years, quarters, and ship date, but we only want quarters. So we'll select ship date, right click, and select remove field. Then we can do the same for years. Right click and select remove field till we're left with just quarter. Then we want to populate our values, so we'll scroll all the way down till we find gross margin. Drag gross margin over to values and drop it there. Now you see it says sum of gross margins, but what we want is the average of gross margins. So we're going to right click it, select field settings, and click on this button, average. Do not click on OK yet, because now we also need to change the formatting. So what we're going to do is click on number in the bottom left, go to the number option, and then we're going to format it with 2 decimal places, which it should already be formatted, so just click OK. After that, click OK again, and then find our next value, which will be order quantity. Find order quantity, and then drag it to values, and this should be sum of order quantity, which is the default and what we want. Now we're going to format this, so right-click it, go to field settings, and then click on number. Then we'll scroll down to the number category, and then use a 1000 separator and put 0 decimal places. And once that is how we want it, we'll click OK, and that finishes that task. Now we can go over to the next task, which is to insert a pivot table slicer. So making sure that we're in the pivot table menu, we'll scroll over to this button, which says Insert Slicer. We'll insert slicer, and we'll get a dialog box asking us which slicers we want. We're going to create one for sales channel and one for product. So scroll down until we find product. Select that, make sure sales channel is selected, and click OK. Now we'll just move that so that we can view both. Now in sales channel, we want to select the online option. And then in product, we want to select the sculptures option. So scroll down to the S's, find where it says sculptures, and select that. Perfect. Now what this does is it just limits down our table to some of the data that we really want to see. Now we can create a chart for this pivot table, which is called a pivot chart. So once again, click anywhere on the pivot table and then find this tab called Pivot Table Analyze. Then find a pivot table chart or pivot chart for short. Click on that. You'll get a default, which is a clustered column, but what we want is a clustered column with a line on the secondary axis. So go over here, go to charge type, and select combo. Chart type, combo, and go to the second option, which says line on secondary axis with a clustered column. Select that, and now we have our perfect pivot chart. Now, this chart is specifically made for this filtered data that we have. And you can see how this chart will change by changing one of these filters. So what we can do is change sales channel to in-store to see how that changes the data, and from there changes the chart. Perfect. Thank you so much. That is all for my presentation. Hope you've learned a lot. And one small joke to finish it off. How do you do surgery on a female Excel sheet? The answer is you slice her. Ha 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 ha. Okay, I'm sorry. That joke was a work of chart. Ha ha ha. Now we're gonna table away how cringy those jokes are and pivot to how great I did. Hope you guys have a great day and have a great time learning. Thank you.